Hey guys, it's Joy here for Honeybee Stamps. On my card today, I've used the Lovely Layouts and Lovely Layers dies. This is the Lovely Layouts Posted, and I have die cut from a craft cardstock, white cardstock, and pink cardstock. I want to start by doing some stenciling on this because I'm going to be using Honeybee Stamps Brilliant White ink, and it's a pigment ink, and it's going to take a minute to dry. So I am also using the Climbing Rose stencil. Now in that stencil there's two pieces. You have the leaves and then you have the roses. I am only going to be using the leaves. I'm just squishing out some of this onto my surface. It really is kind of a habit if you're using a white pigment ink over other ink or ink blending. That way you don't dip your brush back onto your pad and get your pad dirty from the other ink. So it was just a habit. It's not something I actually needed to do, but it doesn't hurt to keep doing that. So I'm just doing some ink blending, getting this white ink onto this craft cardstock. It's super simple. It's just very light. I think it's really pretty. It doesn't have a ton of stuff going on because we're going to do other things to our background. Then I have die cut the Lovely Layers Magnolia from white cardstock. I am using some Copic markers. For the pink, I'm using RV 11 and 10. I'm just adding that darker RV 11 at the base of the petals and then coming in with the RV 10 and just lightly going over it. And as you can see, I'm doing a flicking motion because I don't want to have like a solid color. I do like a little bit of the way the flicking gives you your coloring a little bit of texture. So I want to make sure all my pieces look good when I line them up. Then we have two center pieces that go in the Magnolia. I will be using E49 and 44 to color these two pieces. So a lighter brown and a darker brown. I did decide to add a little bit of that darker brown to the piece that has the lighter brown, and I'm coloring around the edges so you don't see a white edge on this. And then I'm going to blend that out with the E44. Then we have our leaves. I'm just going to show one leaf because I'm coloring all of them the same. I'm using BG 93 and 90. These are the leaves that come in that Lovely Layers Magnolia. I have die cut 3 of them. You get 2 dies in the die set, but I decided I wanted 3 leaves. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of flicking around in the center, following some of those veins in the leaves with that darker BG 93. Let's adhere these together. I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue in the center. I don't tend to add glue all over the whole background. I like it in the center because the edges of the flower with the paper just naturally kind of lift up, and you could also bend them. You can curve them around a pencil or something like that just to give them an even more of a 3D look. So I'm just adding glue to the center so I can have that look that I'm going for. I'm going to apply that first larger piece to the center, and then the smaller piece goes on top of that. So now we have our beautiful Magnolia. Now let's work on our background. So I've got the stamp set here. This is the Postmarked stamp set. I just have my images laid out. So I'm kind of living on the edge here. I even thought, I hope I don't accidentally get any ink on my flower. I do, but I'll show you how I solved that. It's no big deal. But I'm doing this because I want to make sure that I'm seeing certain images stamped that I want to see. If you're not super worried about that, you could just take off all of the images and just stamp willy-nilly all over the background, and that would be beautiful too. But there's just certain things that I wanted to see, so that's why I decided to do it this way. Nothing is adhered down yet. I didn't want to do that, but it is just in its general location of where I want it to be. And now the background is also dry from that stenciling, so I can just stamp right over the top. I'm using a gray-brown kind of ink to go on this background. I didn't want a black ink. I didn't want it to be stark. I didn't want the exact same brown as the craft cardstock, so that's why I decided to go with like a gray-brown, and it stands out a little bit differently. and I think it turned out pretty. So there's where I got my ink, and I decided immediately to use my Tombow Mono Eraser, and I'm using the sand end to remove the ink. I didn't want to let it sit there and get into the cardstock anymore, and it really did remove it. I think there's like the tiniest little bit of a mark, but I wouldn't say that it's actually ink. So super easy to solve that. You don't have to start over, but I was bummed, so I am going to be a little more careful because I think I got a little bit careless about that. So I'm putting on some of these postage images. This is a little bee that I'm putting all over the whole background. I thought that was cute. There is little, like the little circles and the little wavy lines for when you run your mail through. I have those stamped. I have some of the little, it looks like a little writing that would go on a postcard. I have that stamped. Just some lines that would go on the postcard, because you can turn this lovely layout posted die into a postcard, because as you can see, the edge kind of looks like a stamp. It's really pretty. So I just thought it would be fun to have those images. So on this little white die cut, of course it looks like a stamp, I am stamping in that same gray brown ink the little key postage stamp on that, and that's going to be adhered to the card. I want a sentiment on here, a really pretty scripty sentiment. So I'm using the Eternal Love stamp set and coordinating die. The sentiment says, "Thank you for being you." I am stamping the sentiment in black ink because I do want that to pop out differently than all of the stamped images on the background. Let's adhere our images to our card panel. So here's that little stamp. I've die cut the background little scalloped piece. It's kind of like a reverse scallop in pink. Then we have this little lovely piece. It kind of reminds me of lace, and it's the perfect width for this card panel. And because I know where I laid out my stamping, I know where my images go as well. So I'm gonna pop that stamp up with some foam adhesive. I'm gonna do the same thing for the flower. I'm not going to pop up the leaves with foam adhesive. Those will be adhered directly to the background. And I'm going to put that magnolia in place. I'm not pressing it down all the way, just in case I need to slide it around or move it. And I did kind of play with the placement just a little bit. And then a little bit of tape runner behind the leaves, only because I wanted to make sure I could lift things up and move. So if I used liquid glue and it dried, I would not be able to do that without ruining my card, and nobody needs that drama. Okay, I'm going to slide that flower back just a little bit, and then I can get my leaf in place. I'm going to pull out that other leaf behind it and then tuck this one in. Now that we've got that in place, I am going to add some foam adhesive behind my sentiment, because I do like my sentiment to have some dimension. And then I can place that down here. I will adhere this to a white A2 size card base, and then let's take a look at this up close. I think it turned out so lovely. I love that background. I love all of that postage theme stuff. I think it's so, so pretty. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I hope that you feel inspired. Have a wonderful day.